I never thought I would have a day where I would come here on YouTube and say that my Iowa Hawkeyes are worse than the Iowa State Cyclones. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Iowa State Cyclones take back the Cy-Hawk Trophy for a second consecutive year to Ames as they defeat the Iowa Hawkeyes 16-13. I'm making this video pretty quickly today. We're actually not going to go through the whole game highlights. We're going to go through a couple of plays. I've really calmed myself down. When the game ended, I wasn't sad. I wasn't super angry, but I was just like, I was just in that moment where, guys, this is what you get if Kirk Ferentz is your head coach. This is what you get. Slow starting offense that picks up in the second half. And I don't even want to blame the Iowa defense at all in this game. The Iowa defense played to the best of their ability today. I think the way that they only allowed 3 points Iowa State to score in the second half, and the fact that the one touchdown Iowa State scored was off a Gronowski pick. The Iowa defense, I would give them an A- today. They played really, really, really well. But again, that Iowa offense just continues to struggle. They looked a lot better today in the second half. We're going to go through a couple of highlights and hear what Mark Gronowski and what Kirk Ferentz had to say. But ladies and gentlemen, this is just a big dent into the Iowa Hawkeyes playoff hopes. I mean, how can you look at this team now and even say that they could be a playoff team? Because we still have to play Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, at USC, still have to play Nebraska, still have to play Wisconsin, still have to play all these teams, and your team can't even get 100 yards passing of offense. The offense looked a little bit better today, but at the end of the day, there needs to be a lot of change for this Iowa Hawkeyes team to play better. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about it today. This is Landon Talks About Hawks.
Touchdown, Iowa! Down the sideline, goodbye! Touchdown, Iowa! For the end zone, but he will win! Touchdown, Iowa!
I don't really want to recap the game, but just going through some quick plays here. This was the first turnover of the game that the Hawkeyes actually got. See, Iowa State had this ball hit off his finger, recovered by Cohen Instringer, led to a field goal there. This opening of this game, it was 6-0, then it was 6-3, and now this next play that we're going to watch here, this play just really makes me angry from Mark Gronowski because Mark Gronowski had the Hawkeyes in the position. They're down 6-3. If this turnover doesn't happen, Iowa wins this game today. And we can't look at that, but here, just look at it. Mark Gronowski rolls out, Caden Weegan slips, and Mark Gronowski throws his first pick of the season. Just unacceptable to see that out of Gronowski. And lastly, the game-winning field goal, 54-yard again from Kyle Conradi. Iowa fans deserve to hate this guy. I mean, I didn't show Iowa's touchdown. I didn't show Iowa State's touchdown. You didn't need to see much. Iowa's offense played semi-good in the second half. We're going to go over the stats here in a second, but I just think the main part is just looking at this is the emotions just hit you, man. This Iowa team, we are all tired of watching Kirk Ferentz do the same thing over and over and over again. So let's break down some stats from this game. Alrighty, so looking at some stats here from the ball game, Iowa outscored Iowa State in actually 2 of the 4 periods today. So let's start by looking at the box score. Mark Gronowski, 13 for 24 for 83 yards. A better passing game from him. That one INT, he had double the amount of passing yards, which is good to see from him. And looking at Jacuzzi Patterson, he had 60 yards on 11 carries. Xavier Williams didn't do much. Gronowski had 54 yards until he got sacked there towards the ending. And how about Jacob Gill, 52 yards? Nice day from him. He had a 22-yard gain. Sam Phillips with 1 catch. Still want to see all these guys get involved. If you look at Iowa, had 13 catches tonight, obviously, but they had a lot of different players make catches, which is something that you always want to see. The Cohen and Stringer recovered that 1 fumble, but the Iowa defense, they played pretty well. Looking at Jaden Harrell, he had 9 tackles tonight, 6 solo. We saw 1 tackle for loss. We saw 1.5 tackles for loss. 1 sack on the day, 2 sacks on the day, for the Hawkeyes on offense, which we're going to see here in a second. But unacceptable. Rocco Beck only held to 134 yards, 18 for 27. Sama at 47 yards. The running game wasn't too worrisome for the Hawkeyes. Receiving game, didn't see too many guys make too many big plays. Iowa's leading receiver outgained Iowa State's leading receiver. I mean, you look at this, Iowa's leading receiver outgained the Iowa State leading receiver. Iowa's running back outgained the Iowa State's leading running back. So you just see this and you say, man, hey, this is that's something that the Hawkeyes should be proud of themselves at. Looking at the team stats, the Hawkeyes got 16 first downs, Iowa State only 14. Hawkeyes were 5 for 14 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. Obviously, that last one in the game. Iowa State never went for it on fourth down. Hawkeyes with 214 yards of offense. Iowa State with 238. Iowa's defense has allowed so far 238 and 177 yards of offense. But just looking at the completion rating, yards per pass, one interception throw, rushing, Iowa outgained Iowa State. And the passing, obviously, Iowa was not even close. Penalties, Iowa had 4 tonight. Iowa State was very penalized, and 1 turnover for each team. So looking at that, not the best offensive game from the Hawkeyes, but the Hawkeyes had a leading receiver with more yards and a leading rusher with more yards. That's something Iowa fans should be proud of. Now let's hear what Mark Gronowski had to say post-game.
Did you feel like you just didn't have time? Did you not find anybody who was open? What did you see?
Well, I played the first one. I got to get maybe through my read a little bit faster, find that guy that's open on the backside. I ended up waiting just a little too long, and guys sank under the route and just try to make a play, but there's guys closing in on the pocket. The next one, the defense just made an awesome play and just kind of protected everything and first guarded everything on the routes, and sometimes it just happens on those plays.
Did you work running on either one of those?
I look to run at the point, but sometimes the pocket collapses and there's no holes to run through.
I just want to pause it there real quick. Listening to what Mark Gronowski had to say about that last 2 sacks he's referring to on that final drive. Iowa did have almost 2 minutes to drive down the field and kick a field goal. Drew Stevens' range is really good. I think the Hawkeyes only really needed 20 to 30 yards. And first play of the game, the first play they get like a 4 or 5 yard completion, but then they go sack, incompletion to end the drive. And listening to what Mark says, I understand this, but at the same time, that first sack really made me angry because he did have some reason, he had some time, and he could have got rid of it. And on the second one, he didn't even go down. It was another one of those where he was just hanging in the ball too long. And we've seen this with Iowa quarterbacks, but I totally understand his perspective. Let's hear more.
Mark, what was the biggest thing you learned about yourself today?
I feel like I really came into this game a lot more confident, a lot more calm. Was able to make a lot more better decisions throughout the game. We were running a ton of RPOs, just trying to attack those safeties that were trying to get aggressive in the run game. You can see a couple of great catches by Gil, a couple of catches by Sam, making plays on those drives that we are able to sustain for so long, but able to just make those decisions that much better so we can stay on the field and keep playing as an offense. I feel like I played better that way today.
Yeah, listening to what he had to say there, there's one play I didn't show when I was watching the game because I don't think you'll be able to find this until they show the full game. And we'll watch this play and break it down because one rule in football that, I always hate in college is that when there's pass interference, it's only a 15-yard penalty. It doesn't go to the spot of the ball. And one thing that, the NFL makes it an advantage is that when you have defensive holding or defensive PI or whatever, the ball is placed at the spot of the foul. But Iowa State saved a game-winning touchdown today from the Hawkeyes. Mark Gronowski on a 3rd and 2 in the fourth quarter took a shot for, I believe, either Gill or Phillips. One of those guys. I think it might have been Gill. And the Iowa State defender held Gill from, essentially, I think he would have scored a touchdown. If he would have kept running, he was held, and they called it on a 3rd and 2, and the Iowa State defender made the smart play. Even though it was 3rd and 2, he took the risk. He understood that Gill was probably going to catch that ball. He got beat to the play, and so when you get beat like that, he just comes up there and he just holds him off. He knows he's going to get beat, and so when you can hold a receiver like that off and not allow them to score a touchdown, that is playing defense in a certain way that we don't see every day. So, Mark Gronowski, that wasn't totally his fault. I'm not saying, who knows, Gill could have dropped the ball, but it just shows that when you're playing defense, there's so much to play into it, and the Iowa Hawkeyes offense just couldn't take advantage of that play.
What do you feel like held you guys back from being more consistent in putting those drives together? Obviously, you had a few of them that you made progress down the field, but
yeah, one thing I think we got to start a little bit faster. We had those first 2 drives. We started 3 and out. We just got to get the ball rolling earlier in the game to really start, gaining that momentum, gaining that rhythm on offense. But when we had that drive, we started the 15, heading into halftime. It was great to actually respond. We responded really well as an offense and was able to sustain that drive all the way down and make it a 3-point game going into halftime, which at that point, that's all you can ask for. But offensively, we just got to continue to execute a little bit better. There's little miscommunications or maybe one guy not doing the right assignment, and we need to make sure we're having 11 guys doing the right thing and 11 guys executing every single play for us to be successful.
I totally agree with what he said there because I want to give Mark some credit. There were 2 drives. The touchdown drive was actually an 85-yard drive, and then the Hawkeyes got the ball at the 2-yard line after a punt to start the second half, and they actually drove 75 yards down the field,
converted a couple of third downs to kick the field goal to tie the game. And, we'll talk later in the week about that play because it's Kirk Ferentz, and I'm not going to get angry about this play in that fourth down that they didn't go for on 4th and 2. I understand that they wanted to tie the game. I think that was probably the smart move at that point. But when you look at it, you're like, they had so much momentum going to that drive that I feel very confident that Gronowski could have found a way to get that fourth down. And, if you don't get it obviously, I don't really think it changes how this game goes. But Mark's totally right. The offense needs to start faster. I actually didn't get to watch the whole first quarter of the game. I was at a cross-country meet, but I'm going to kind of rewatch it and see some of those drops again, incompletions. Gronowski just looked a little bit lost in the first half from what I could see so far today, and that's something that I think he's going to continue to improve on as the season goes on. Iowa honestly got bailed into that touchdown. I mean, when I claim that if Mark Gronowski doesn't throw a pick and Iowa State doesn't score that touchdown, that the Hawkeyes win, well, Iowa wouldn't even have scored a touchdown if it wasn't for the unsportsmanlike conduct and the defensive holding on that 4th down and goal, I believe. Yeah, it was 3rd and goal, and Mark Gronowski got sacked. So good to hear some stuff out of Gronowski. We're going to look at the upcoming schedule in a second before we go to our final thoughts, but Iowa's got some wiggle room, but they have some giant holes to get in the next 2 weeks till they play Indiana. I want to just quickly hear what Kirk Ferentz had to say. We'll listen to a minute or two and break it down.
We're going to hear from Kirk Ferentz tomorrow. Got to cut the video a little bit short today. Just want to go through Iowa's schedule over the next 4 games. I want to just go over about the wiggle room we could see from this Iowa offense. They're going to play a UMass team next week. Iowa is going to beat UMass. Kirk Ferentz will get his 205th win. Mark Gronowski will get his 51st win to become the winningest coach in Big Ten history, and Mark Gronowski will become the winningest quarterback in college football history. And they're going to do it against UMass. And that's the most Kirk Ferentz thing I've heard. Next Saturday, at 5:30 here in Colorado on the Big Ten Network, Iowa's going to take down UMass. We'll preview the game this week. Then they got Rutgers on Fox at 6 on a Friday night. And this game has gone from a game where we were like Iowa's going to roll them to I still think Iowa's going to win, but this is going to be a good matchup for the Hawkeyes going into that Indiana game. When they get a longer week, they get an extra day. Indiana hasn't looked amazing. They won again today, but the Hawkeyes really are going to get Indiana in a good position because Indiana is coming off Illinois at home, so they could have had a really emotional win or loss, and the Hawkeyes got them in a good position. And then Wisconsin on the road until Penn State. I'm going to be honest with you guys that, Iowa can go into that Penn State game 5-1, but I see them dropping one of these games. I don't know if it's Indiana. I don't know if it's Wisconsin. I truly think the Hawkeyes should go into that Penn State game, which Penn State's already a 10-point favorite. I think the Hawkeyes should go into that game 5-1 on Saturday the 18th, but when you look at the way this offense is played right now, they're going to beat UMass. They'll probably beat Rutgers. Indiana's going to be tough. Wisconsin's going to be tough. But the Iowa Hawkeyes, if they can go into this Penn State game 5-1, they got Minnesota, Oregon, USC, Michigan State, Nebraska to end the season. I at least see 2 more losses on this Iowa schedule. Do I still think Iowa is going to beat either Penn State or Oregon? Maybe. I don't know which one it will be. I think they have a really good opportunity. I think playing 2 teams that are going to be ranked in the top 10 is a good opportunity. In Kinnick Stadium, one of them is going to be a night game. But at the end of the day, the Iowa Hawkeyes have to handle business against UMass and Rutgers, and Iowa needs to find a way to be productive on offense, and I think it starts against UMass this week. There's still a lot of optimism left on this Iowa team, so let's head into our final thoughts. Well, there you have it. We did a nice little recap of this Iowa State game. I didn't really want to make a full game recap because it normally gets copyrighted, and also just this wasn't fun. It's not a fun day to be an Iowa fan. And I'm feeling already better, but I'm a teenager, and in my life, Iowa has never lost back-to-back games to Iowa State. Iowa has never lost in Ames in my life. This was the first time, actually, they lost in 2011. This is the first time I've ever seen Iowa lose in Ames. I didn't know what it was like, but I don't think Kirk Ferentz needs to be fired, but this needs to be Kirk Ferentz last year. Kirk Ferentz, go out in the sunset, win your 8-4 Tax Slayer Bowl. Yeah, win the Tax Slayer Bowl. Go out in the Pinstripe Bowl and go 8-4 and win it. But Iowa needs to make some moves this week. We're going to keep recapping videos. I really hope the Hawkeyes can make some really solid moves. And if you're a Cyclone fan, I didn't crash out enough for you guys. And I don't think
this is like the Cyclones are a really good team. I actually like. I'll admit it, it's a Cyclone state. Like Iowa this year, Iowa State is better than Iowa, and I knew that going into this game. But one last thing I just want to recap on, and I made this. If you go back and watch my UCLA video, I made this. The Iowa defense is still amazing. Iowa defense is still a top 25 defense, but it's not the defense we had 3 years ago. Kirk Ferentz is used to playing wait for the other team to make a mistake. But the problem now is that the Iowa defense isn't going to make you those mistakes always. This isn't a Nebraska game where you're waiting for Ethan Hurkett to strip sack the quarterback and set up your game-winning field goal. It just felt like we were sitting there today and waiting for Rocco Beck to throw a pick six or for him to, fumble, and that just never happened because realistically, that's not going to keep happening forever. And Kirk Ferentz needs to find a new way because he needs to actually try to win games instead of waiting for you to lose the game. And Iowa's going to have to figure this out. I told you they got UMass at Rutgers. They got the opportunity. They got a 2-week window to get ready to play Indiana and get ready to try to beat a ranked team at home. Indiana's going to be ranked going to that game. I'm pretty confident. But we'll continue to see how the Hawkeyes play. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Tell me how you're feeling down below in the comments about our Hawks this year. Really hurts their college football playoff hopes, but at least it's a non-conference game. And we'll see you later. Go Hawks.